Dear students, welcome to this digital lecture series. Today we are going to see the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics. Now, according to classical mechanics, if a material particle is moving, then both its position and the momentum of the particle can be determined very accurately and simultaneously. That is, at the same time, you can measure the position of the particle and the momentum of the particle accurately. But this is not the case in quantum mechanics. We have seen that a beam of material particles is represented by a wave packet in quantum mechanics. And the wave packet has a dimensional spread, means a position spread, and it also has a certain spread with respect to velocity. So therefore, both the position and the momentum of the moving particle, it cannot be determined accurately and simultaneously according to quantum mechanics. So this is a wave packet, and how it is formed? Each material particle is having a wave associated with it. These are called matter waves. When they are traveling in the same direction, they overlap to produce a wave packet. Now, if the wave packet is produced and there is constructive overlapping of the waves, then the amplitude of the wave packet is maximum. And if there is a destructive overlapping, then the amplitude of the wave packet will be 0. And if the wave packet is small, in that case, the position of the particle can be determined accurately, while the momentum cannot be determined very accurately in this case. On the other hand, if the wave packet is large, then the momentum of the particle can be determined accurately, but the position of the particle cannot be determined accurately. So, these gave rise to the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. And according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, it is impossible to determine simultaneously both the position and momentum of a moving particle with a high degree of accuracy. Means both the position and momentum cannot be determined accurately at the same time, that is simultaneously. Or Heisenberg's uncertainty principle can also be stated as that the product of uncertainty in simultaneous measurement of position of a moving particle and momentum of a moving particle is always greater than or equal to h cross by 2. Here h cross means h upon twice pi. Now I have used the word uncertainty. The uncertainty means the error in measurements. Mathematically, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is given by delta x into delta px is always greater than or equal to h cross by 2, where delta x is the uncertainty in position and delta px is the uncertainty in linear momentum, and h cross we all know is equal to h upon twice pi. So let's try to prove this. According to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, the proof is based on the concept of de Broglie waves associated with the material particles and the concept of wave packet. The de Broglie waves associated with each particle, they overlap to produce a wave packet, and the wave packet so produced then represents the beam of material particles. So this is a wave packet which is produced due to overlapping of these are the matter waves associated with each individual particle. They produce after overlapping a wave packet, and this wave packet is having maximum amplitude where there is constructive overlapping and zero amplitude where there is a destructive overlapping. Now consider a wave packet which is moving along the x-axis and the wave packet is of the length delta x. Now for a simple case, let us consider that a wave packet is formed due to overlapping of two waves. Only two waves we have considered, such that one of the wave is having wavelength lambda 1 and the other wave is having wavelength lambda 2. Now we have seen that the point where there is a constructive overlapping or interference, the amplitude of the wave packet will be maximum, and where there is a destructive interference or destructive overlapping, the amplitude of the wave packet will be 0. Now if you observe the wave, then this is a wave packet of length delta x. At a distance delta x by 2 from the center, at a distance, this is the central part, at a distance delta x by 2 from the center means at this point there is destructive interference or overlapping of the wave, and the amplitude of the wave packet is 0. Now let us see when do we get a 0 amplitude after overlapping of the waves. In this wave diagram there are two waves. Suppose that this is a wave of wavelength lambda 1 and this is a wave of wavelength lambda 2. And if they are traveling in the same direction and overlapping, then there will be destructive interference or overlapping if this crest of one wave, it falls on the trough of other wave. This is the crest, it falls on the trough of other wave. In that case there is destructive overlapping and the amplitude of the resultant wave or the wave packet will be 0. Now observe this wave in blue. A wave of certain wavelength. This is a wave, one complete wave. And a wave consists of two parts. Half of the wave is a crest. Remaining half of the wave is a trough. If there is a destructive overlapping, the crest of one wave falls on the trough of other wave. If you apply simple logic, then you will understand that for a crest of one wave to fall on a trough of other wave, one of the wave should be half wave ahead or more than the other wave. If this condition is satisfied, which condition? That one of the waves is half wave ahead or more than the other wave, only in that case the crest of one wave will fall on the trough of other and destructive overlapping will take place to give a 0 amplitude for the wave packet. So, if there is a destructive interference at a distance delta x by 2 from the center, then one of the wave should be half wave ahead or more than the other. Now see that if I am taking a wave of wavelength lambda 1, then in this length lambda 1, there is one complete wave. In this length lambda 1, there is one complete wave. To find the total number of waves in the distance delta x by 2, what I will do? Total distance delta x divided by 2. These I will divide by the length of one wave. So what will this ratio give me? Delta x by 2 divided by lambda 1. It will give me the total number of waves of wavelength lambda 1 in the distance delta x by 2. So similarly, delta x by 2 divided by lambda 2, this will give me the total number of waves of wavelength lambda 2 in the distance delta x by 2. So this is number of waves of wavelength lambda 1 and this is number of waves of wavelength lambda 2 in the distance delta x by 2. And we have seen that at a distance delta x by 2, there was a destructive overlapping. So out of these two waves, one of the wave should be half wave ahead or half wave more than the other. Therefore, I can write that total number of waves of wavelength lambda 1 minus total number of waves of wavelength lambda 2 in the distance delta x by 2. This is always greater than or equal to half. Because remember that at a distance delta x by 2 there was a destructive overlapping, and destructive overlapping takes place when the crest of one wave falls on the trough of other. So I get equation 1. Now if I make simple rearrangement of the terms, half and this half gets cancelled. So I get delta x in the bracket 1 upon lambda 1 minus 1 upon lambda 2 is greater than or equal to 1. Now many a times we have written that x2 minus x1 is equal to delta x, or y2 minus y1 is equal to delta y. I am using the same logic here. So 1 by lambda 1 minus 1 by lambda 2, I am writing it as delta 1 by lambda. So my equation now becomes delta x, delta 1 upon lambda is greater than or equal to 1, that is equation 2. Now by the de Broglie equation, we know that for a particle which is traveling, de Broglie wave equation is P is equal to h upon lambda. Now since the particle or the wave packet is traveling along x-axis, we take the x component of momentum. So I write this equation as Px is equal to h upon lambda. So 1 by lambda is Px upon h. Substitute this value from 3 in equation 2. So I get delta x into delta Px upon h is greater than or equal to 1. And if I make rearrangement of the terms, I get delta x into delta Px. This is greater than or equal to h. Now see, if I divide this h by twice pi, I will get h cross. And h cross is less than h. H cross is less than h. So if I write h cross instead of h, this relation greater than, that is product delta x into delta px, which was greater than or equal to h, this relation also holds true that delta x, delta px is greater than or equal to h cross. And if I divide it by 2, this relation greater than this product of uncertainties in position and uncertainty in momentum is greater than or equal to h cross by 2, that is equal to h upon 4 pi is true. So this gives me equation 4, and equation 4 is nothing but the mathematical form of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So remember this equation, delta x, delta px is always greater than or equal to h cross by 2, or h cross is h upon twice pi, so this becomes h upon 4 pi. We are going to use this equation to solve the problems, numericals, on uncertainty principle. So this is the uncertainty principle. Delta x into delta p is always greater than or equal to h upon 4 pi. What does this mean? If you determine the position of a particle very accurately, then the momentum cannot be determined accurately. And reverse is also true, that if momentum is determined very accurately, then the position cannot be determined accurately. This is the meaning of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. And this is a consequence of quantum mechanics. So let's now see another topic related to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, that is canonically conjugate variables. Now see here, any two variables, how it is defined, any two variables which satisfy the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, they are called canonically conjugate variables. Or another definition is any two variables such that the uncertainty in measurement of one variable places a limit on accurate measurement of the other variable. They are called canonically conjugate variables. We have seen delta x and px, x position and the px means x component of momentum. They cannot be measured simultaneously. If you measure the x variable or x position accurately, px cannot be measured accurately. And if you measure px accurately, then x cannot be found accurately. So these two variables, x and px, they are canonically conjugate variables. Canonically conjugate variables are those variables such that their product of uncertainty is always greater than h cross. Now examples of canonically conjugate variables are, see I have mentioned first one, x, px. Their product of uncertainties is greater than h cross. Another is y coordinate and the y component of momentum py. Product of their uncertainties is also greater than h cross. And the third one is delta z, delta pz. So this product is also greater than h cross. So here delta x, delta y, delta z, they are uncertainties in position, while delta px, delta py and delta pz, they are uncertainty in momentum. Now there are few other combinations. One is delta theta into delta omega is greater than or equal to h cross. Here delta theta is uncertainty in angular displacement. This was linear displacement. If you are moving along x-axis, this is the linear displacement. Now if you are moving in a circle, then this theta is the angular displacement, and delta theta is uncertainty in angular displacement. And what is this omega? Omega is the uncertainty, not delta omega is the uncertainty in angular momentum. See here it was linear momentum and the position, linear displacement. Here it is angular displacement and angular momentum. These two also combination, theta and omega, they also form a canonically conjugate variable pair. They also satisfy Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. One more combination is there. This is energy and this is the time. Delta E is the uncertainty in energy. Delta T is the uncertainty in time. Product of delta E and delta T is also greater than or equal to h cross. So E, energy and time, also forms a canonically conjugate pair, and it satisfies Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Now let's see one application of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and that is the non-existence of electron inside a nucleus. We know that in nuclear decay processes, there is a process called beta decay. And in beta decay, electrons are emitted from the nucleus. So the question arises, does the electron reside inside the nucleus? Is it present inside the nucleus? Now, by using Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, we will try to address this issue. Now, let us assume that the electron is present inside the nucleus. We are assuming it, and at the end we will see what happens. But to begin with, we assume that the electron is present inside the nucleus. Now, the nuclear radius, it is of order of r is equal to 1 into 10 raised to the power minus 14 meter. It is a very small value. And if the electron is present inside the nucleus, then it can move from one end of the nucleus to the another end of the nucleus, and means it can move a distance which is equal to the diameter of the nucleus. So, a distance equal to 2r twice radius or the diameter of nucleus is available for the electron if it is present inside the nucleus. Hence, the uncertainty in position of the electron, delta x, it becomes twice r, that is 2 into 10 raised to the power minus 14 meter. Now, by Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, delta x into delta px, this is equal to h cross, and so I get delta px, this is equal to h cross divided by delta x. And if I put the values, I know h cross is equal to h upon twice pi, and delta x I have found for an electron, if it is inside the nucleus, the delta x will be twice that value of r. If I put these values here, I get the uncertainty in momentum, that is equal to 5.28 into 10 raised to the power minus 21 kilogram meter per second. This is uncertainty in momentum. Now, an electron is a relativistic particle. Its energy is given by E is equal to under root of P square C square plus m0 square C raised to the power 4, where P is the momentum of electron, C is the speed of light, m0 is the rest mass of electron, and C is the speed of light. But we know that the rest mass of electron, it is very, very small. It comes out to be 9.1 10 raised to the power minus 31 kg, which is a very small quantity. So this second term, m0 square C raised to the power 4, it can be neglected, because if you are taking the square of 10 raised to the power minus 31, it becomes 10 raised to the power minus 62, which is very, very small. So it can be neglected. So E is equal to under root of P square C square. I get E is equal to PC. Now, we have seen the uncertainty in position, in momentum, that is 5.28 10 raised to the power minus 21 multiplied by the speed of light. You get the energy of an electron. If it is present inside the nucleus, it comes out to be 1.587 into 10 raised to the power minus 12 joule. Now we will convert it into electron volt. So 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 10 raised to the power minus 19 coulomb. Divide this by 1.6 10 raised to the power minus 19 coulomb, and you get that the energy of the electron, if it is present inside the nucleus, it comes out to be 9.875 million electron volt. So thus the energy of electron, if it exists inside the nucleus, it should be 9.875 million electron volts. But in nuclear physics, there is a process decay process called beta decay process, where electrons are emitted from the nucleus, and in that case the maximum energy of the electrons that are emitted during the beta decay process, it is found to be 4 million electron volt. It can be less, 2.2 to 4 million electron volts. Now this is a contradiction. What is the contradiction here? If the electron exists inside the nucleus, we have calculated by using the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle that its energy should be 9.875 million electron volt, and we have seen that in beta decay process the maximum energy of an electron emitted, it is only 4 million electron volt or less. So there is a contradiction that regarding the energy of the emitted electron. So this is a contradiction, and it is mainly because our assumption is wrong. What we have assumed, that the electron is present inside the nucleus. So this contradiction is there because of our false assumption. Hence we can conclude that the electron does not exist inside the nucleus. Thus Heisenberg's uncertainty principle proves that the electron does not exist inside the nucleus. So that's all about the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Have a nice day.